Hello everyone, welcome to a few more questions on logical reasoning and data interpretation. Right, and as we are getting closer and closer to the exam, all of you must have practiced a lot of sets and still notice that there's a variety of sets that we can always come up with. If you have watched a few of my videos in the beginning, I have told you this. The LR is not about doing all the type of caselets. Though I will try to familiarize you with all the type of caselets, the idea isn't necessary to do all the type of caselets. The idea is to understand that you can do any caselet that comes in the examination as long as you keep your mind level headed. That's very simple. And as long as till then you can think logically, if not, there are two other modes. Try to get all the possibilities of worst case scenario, work with the answer options, right? So irrespective of what, either you have your, think logically, right? That is one, or think of the possibilities, right? Or use answer option. Now you might question, what if there are no answer options? No worry, you can use some standard, right? You can use some standard values sometimes, right? You can check with the values and it might work, right? But really, this shouldn't count too much for you because the number of questions of the short answer type, right? The short answer type is less, right? Last year it was 8 questions, right? 8 out of 32 questions. That means the remaining 24 questions out of 32 questions had, you know, 4 options and only one was correct. Okay, so you don't have to worry, right? Think logically, that's more important, right? But as we progress, the idea of me telling you the different type of caselets is just a familiarization to let you know that all types of caselet have only one philosophy, that is to think logically, right? And if it is DI, to look at calculation, right? And if it is LR and DI, to look at both, right? So let's get started with a question, right? Interesting one, simple question on DI, right? Or DI with a tinge, I would say a little bit of LR here, right? So the question, let's do it together. The graph shows the percent increase or decrease in the number of students taking CAT exam over the last year, right? Over the previous year. Use data from the questions if required. Let's look at the questions. Taking the numbers of students in 1990 as the base value. What is the number of years in which number of students taking CAT exam is less than 1990? If in 1994, 45,000 students took CAT, then what is the difference between number of students taking CAT in 93 and 95? We have a question on 1996. IIMs supposedly have 750 seats. What is the percentage of students they have to give calls or send calls so that 1 in 7 students they choose? And in 1997, they choose 1 in 8 students. What is the percentage increase in the number of students getting calls in 1997 over the previous year? So there are these 4 questions. Let's come back to our question 1. So the data is pretty simple, right? This is the percentage changes over the base year. So let's understand, let's take a minute to understand what we mean by over the base year. Like that's something that I would really like to work for some time, right? Over the base year, what's the meaning of this particular statement? So now, assuming that we are taking our reference, of course, our reference is going to be with the year 1990, and we assume that to be 100. Right now, you notice that in 91 there is a 5%. There's a 5% increase. It's a plus. That's a zero mark. There's a 5% increase. So we can say that if this was 100%, in the year 1991, there's a 5% increase. So this value would have become 105 in 91. Likewise, in 92. Now, since we're trying to discuss the year 92, how much should it be, right? If you're trying to discuss that, if we are trying to discuss for the year 92, right? So what are we discussing? Trying to discuss for the year 92. Well, what's the value that we are looking at for the year 92, right? So if you look at the year 92, that's another 11% or so increase. So we can say 10% of 105 would be, about 10.5, and 11%. So ballpark figure, right? For example, 116 or something, maybe 100, a tinge more than 116, but should not really matter, right? If you take 93, that's like 15% standards, pretty straightforward from the data. 15% over and above 116, that should give us about a value like about 16, 17 in that range. So let's say it's about 133 for the year 93. 94, there would be a dip. Now here notice there's a dip. The dip is approximately 7.5% for 133. Now 7% of 133 would be a little difficult number, but I would say around about 10, right? Though the value is not 10, we are saying 1% of this number is 1.33. So, with that figure in mind, a 6%, right? 6% would be a value of 8. So 1% is 1.33, 3% would be 4, and 6% would be 8. So 7% would be round about 9.33, 9.4, something of that sorts, but then we don't need to take exact values here. We're just checking for this question, right? So this value would be, about 10 decrease. That would be about 123. Again, there's about 2%. Now, we are not really sure. They have not mentioned that's 2%, but we can say it's about 2%. 2% decrease, so approximately this might become 120. And in 1996, there's about 12% increase compared to 120. That would be approximately 14 more or 15 more, maybe 135, right? And if you look at the last value, that is 1997, there's a decrease. There's a decrease of about 5%. So, again, let's take it about 1% is, 1.35. So 5% will be about 6 or 7. So let's say a value of about 128. So what we are trying to do from the year 1990, you just notice the values, right? We have 105, we have 116, 133, 123, 120, 135, and 128. The values have always increased. Have you noticed this, right? The values have always been more than 100. It has never dipped below 100, right? So what is the question? Taking the number of students in 1990 as the base value, what is the number of years in which the number of students taking CAT exam is less than that in the year 1990, right? That's zero. That's straightforward. Less than the year 1990. There is absolutely nobody, right? There's no year in which it is less than 1990. Compared to the previous year, it's fallen. For example, here there's a fall, right? Or here there's a fall, but that does not necessarily mean, right, that the total number of students in that particular year is less than 1990. Are we good, right? Let's go to the next question. Simple one on data interpretation, right? In 1994, 45,000 students took CAT. Now, we could use the data here. Or, well, for this question, we can assume that in the year 94, there are 100 students, right? Then 95 would be a 2% dip. That would make it easy. 98. So, if we consider this as 100%, this could become a 98%. While from 93 to 94, there's a 7% decrease. So approximately this should be a little more than 107%. So maybe 107.4 or 107.5, some value of that sorts, right? Now we didn't want to, okay, now coming to what I'm going to do now is we are saying this 45,000 students is like 100%, right? So if 100% is an equivalence of 45,000, what are we talking of 1%? 1% should be about 450, right? That simply means they're asking us the difference between these two years. The difference in question, right? If we look up the difference in question, right, would be about a tad more than 9%, little more than 9%. We are saying 1% is 450. If we are talking of a 9% or 9.5%, that will be about a little more than 4050, and it's between 4050 because it is not 10%, It is between 4050 and 4500. This is the figure that we are looking at in this range. So there's only one answer that satisfies. Now coming back, why didn't we take the value like 133, 123 and 120? If we say 45,000 is equal to 123, the calculation would be a little more, right? While here we've taken the base as 100, that's why the calculation has become slightly on the easier side, right? Should it be making sense on this sort? Yeah, pretty simple. Good. So that's an easy one again. We've changed the reference. So sometimes students think that one's calculation, something like this, is more beneficial. It depends on the question. So don't go with the mindset in the exam. While you're doing it, you can figure out what's right and what's wrong. Be flexible. Okay. Be like the water. You know what? It's like what Bruce Lee says. Be like water. You should be ready to take any shape. Right. So let's move on. Let's move on. Are we good? I'm hoping you guys are good with this question. Right. Till now we have had no sweat in this question. Let's go to the question 3. So they say in the year 1996 the IMS has 750 seats, right? The number of seats is 750 that they have, and they want to give a call one among every 7 students. That means the number we are talking, right? If we are talking of the number of calls that they have to give, right, would be 5,250. That's simply 750 into 7, because one in every 7 students gets selected. But the question, do we have an idea as to what is the number of students in the year 1996? What is the number of students in the year 1996? So where do we get an idea about this? Come back to the question. This is one of those special type of questions where they did mention use data from the previous questions if necessary. Now it's necessary to solve it, right? Since it's necessary to solve it, we'll use the data from which question? Of course, from the previous question, which means that we assume that in the year 94, the number of students is 45,000. In the year 95, like we had assumed, this was 100, this dropped by approximately 2%, that's 98. So in the year 96, that's an increase by 12%. Approximately 110, definitely not 110, little less than 110 would be this value, right? We're talking about the year 96. So we know this 100 parts is equivalent to 45,000, which I have also written here. So this 110 parts, can I say, we are saying 110 parts here, that automatically means it should be 49,500. Are we good? Like, it's like saying, can we say the ratio here? The ratio here is 10 is to 11. The ratio in these two places. So 10 parts is 45,000. One part is 4,500. And 4,500 into 11, that is 4,950, right? That will get the answer. Using data from the previous question, we have figured out that the number of students in context is 49,500. The number of students in this question is 49,000, right? 49,500. Approximately, it's not the right figure. It should be about 49,000 maybe. I'm not sure, right? But we don't need to worry. Look at the answer options. 10%, 15%, 5%, 20%, 25%. One thing that you must understand, that in the exam called CAT, even after using the calculator, you will not get answer options like 10.1 and 10.12 and let's say 10.09. You will not get answers like this. It is way too close answer options, way too close. This is not part of the exam called CAT. You might get it in some other exam, I'm not sure, but CAT would not intend to do it. Their aim is not to make it difficult. Please understand, the aim of the question paper setter is to set logical questions, because the aim is to get students who can think logically, not students who can just, do tough questions and just come into this place, right? Okay, now coming back to the question, right? Coming back to this question, so what percentage of students should they be giving calls? That's pretty much what the question is, right? We're talking of about 5,250 students they have to give calls. out of about 49,500. So if you look at this number, if you look at this number, 10% of this number, 10% of this number is something like 4,950, right? 11% of this number will be close to 5,000, maybe 400 or something, right? Okay. If you're looking at this particular value, right? If you looking at this particular value, right? Uh, we are looking at something, the answer that we are saying, 5,250, that's between 10 and 11%, right? It's not even tending towards 11, right? So we can mark the closest answer option, but of course that would be a 10%. The other values look vague and way too far, right? This could very well be a short answer type. If it is a short answer type question, then they might ask you to write the answer probably with a decimal value, without a decimal value. In case they ask you with a decimal value, then you will have to do it with an accurate calculation. There you might want to end up using the calculator, right? So that's how we can look at this question. Let's look at another question. So what I'll do is, while we're doing this next question, I will give you about 30 seconds to think on this question. We have done a lot of things, right? So take about 30 seconds. Okay, we're pretty much there, I think. All good, superb. So let's do this question, okay? Let's try doing this particular question, right? So what's the question about? Let's read it again. Let's read it again, right? If in the year 1997 they adopt a strategy to choose one among every 8 students, what is the percentage increase in the number of students getting calls in the year 1997? Good thing we can use data from the previous question. In the year 96, there were 750 students, and 1 in 7 get called. Now, in the year 97, they say 1 in 8 should get called, right? So, if you use data from the previous question, what do you assume is the number of seats in the year 1997, right? You can use data from the previous question, right? This question is very simple. You can use data from the previous question. But can we assume something on our own? Of course not. We do not have a trend. There is no trend discussing, the number of seats. What we have is a trend which is discussing the number of students appearing, right, for the exam. This is what is discussed. We don't have this option, number of seats. There's nowhere mentioned, right? We don't have a mention of number of seats, except once. We don't have a graph to describe number of seats, right? It simply means the answer cannot be determined. Very simple if you look at it. But otherwise, a lot of people would end up calculating and mark the answer as 14.28, or maybe a 12.5, or maybe a 15, or maybe a 15 or something. It shouldn't matter for us, right? That should have been a 15.5, I think, 15.5%. Okay, so that sounds good. The answer is very simple. That's a cannot be determined. You can use data from the previous question, but not really completely use data from the previous questions, right? That makes sense. I'm sure. Okay, so we're good. Let's go for the next change, right? Let's try another one, right? Good. So nice, sweet on something on truth and lie, and I'm sure you guys would have enjoyed these type of questions. If you look back, these were the type of questions which you were getting in those years, CAT 2009 to CAT 2013. Pretty common in these particular years. I will give you about a minute, right? About 60 seconds to read this, right? In the meantime, let me show you the questions, right? Let me show you the questions, how they look. A's answer for which question was or were true, and for which question. So all a short answer type. These answer for which questions were true and for which question or questions were or was false. What is the difference in the number of true answers by C and D? Which inhabitant surely gave no wrong answer, and these answer for which question or questions were true, for which question or questions were false. Right? That's the kind of question. So primarily you'll have to literally know. We'll have to literally know, right? Uh, we'll have to literally know what's happening with this caselet, right? We'll have to literally sit back and ask ourselves what's happening with this caselet, right? Okay, so let's head towards the question, right? Let's head towards the question. So where is the question? I'll give you about 60 seconds, like I said, right? So 60 seconds, take your time and read the question.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Okay, so let's begin. Quite more than the 60 seconds that I probably wanted to give you. So I'm sure you guys have gone through the entire idea behind the caselet, right? So there is. Let's quickly review the information given. There's an island called something called an evil island. It sounds very weird name for an island. So let's use the red color. That's more evil here. There's an island called Evil Island. Always answer any question only with a yes and a no. Wow, that's the kind of place I would like to live in, right? So these are called close-ended type questions. The A, B, C, and D are owners of a holiday resort. The four things: holiday resort. There's a palm grove. There is a supermarket and a water sports center. May not be respectively. D is not the owner of the supermarket. Oh wow, that's nice. Each was asked the following questions in the order: are you the owner of the holiday resort? Are you the owner of the supermarket of the Palm Grove? Are you the owner of the supermarket of the water sports center? And these guys, that's A, B, C, and D, gave these answers: yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes, and so on. Right? So now let's come to the question. Let's come to the case. Right? So this is what is given. Right? This is what is given. So while we look at A, B, C, and D, right? These four guys of the evil island. This is what we know. These are four guys. So there is the question one. We have question number one, right? That's what they answered, and a question two and a question three, right? Within which we'll have to try to take some cases and try to arrive at the answer. Now, if you look, we definitely want to start with D. For the simple reason, if you get back to the question, you'll notice something, right? D is not the owner of the supermarket. That's one sincere information or a positive information that we know, right? And we also know, right? We also know at least two out of the three answers of each inhabitant were true. At least two has to be true, right? At least two has to be true. We will come to the question now. At least two has to be true. Let's start with D here. D says, Are you the owner of a holiday resort? We know for sure D is not the owner of the supermarket. He is not owning this particular place called supermarket. So it could be one of the three. It could be a farm grove, a holiday resort, or a water sports center. Right? So we have a water sports center, we have a farm grove, and we have a holiday resort and a supermarket. Supermarket is out of context, right? So let's see. So for the first thing, when D was asked, "Are you the owner of the holiday resort?" There could be two possibilities for the no. The no could be true, right? The no could be true, or the no could be false. Assuming the no is true, so are you the owner of the holiday resort? That is true. That means in that particular condition, right? We are sure that not the owner of the holiday resort, if it is true, right? The next statement, are you the owner of the supermarket? Which is definitely not. Are you the owner of the supermarket? This guy is not the owner of the supermarket, right? This guy is not the owner of the supermarket. Are you the owner of the supermarket or the farm grove? So he says no. He says no. Now, if that's a lie, right? He says no. This could be a true or it could be a false for the question too. If it is true, are you the owner? No. Then we can negate palm grove, right? We can negate palm grove. We're not still sure, right? We can negate palm grove. That means we are left only with water sports center. And the third statement, are you the owner of the supermarket or the water sports center? Right? Because this person is the owner of the water sports center, this automatically becomes yes. That means that should be a true statement. What if this were false? What if the second statement was false? Let's just try to evaluate that. If it is false, are you the owner of the supermarket? No, this chap is not the owner of the supermarket. Right? This chap is not the owner of the supermarket, but assuming he is the he's the owner of the farm grove, right? Or the palm grove, right? And he says, no, I'm not the owner. That means this person is ending up owning, in this condition, is ending up owning the palm grove, right? Which means the third statement would also become false. We cannot have two false, at least two honest statements. At least two of the statements were true, right? Which means this case is negated, right? So as of now, this case looks fine and the other case looks out, right? We can remove this. The false is not working, but we'll check another case for false, right? What if that false is there? Right? We need to work that as well, right? Case two. If that is a false, right? If that is a false, that means that means this person is definitely owning, right? The holiday resort, right? So the next statement, are you the owner of the supermarket or the farm grove? He says no, which is true, right? That has to be true because he says no, I am not the owner, which is also true because he's the owner of the HR. But then the last statement again becomes false, right? So we cannot have two falses, right? This will make our life a little easy. We can remove all this, and we can say, hey, listen, you know what? The owner of the water sports center is for sure D, right? That is a water sports center. And we can also find out the true, and true, right? Now, coming to something, if this question by default was not a short answer type, had answer options, definitely might have made our life a little easy, but at the same time, it might be a little difficult, right? Because if you have an answer, short answer type, generally, short answer type may not be able to give you a particular mechanism by which you can type, cannot be determined until unless they specify a method to type it. So, in all possibility, the question here looks like a short answer type with a determinable answer. That means there might not be multiple cases, there might just be one case, but we'll still work with that. We'll still work around with that. What if there is this where with answer options? We need to work both the sides. Let's go to C now. I am going in the reverse. Let's go to C now. Now we know that water sports center is already taken, right? Water sports center is already taken, right? So we can do some cases, right? We can assume C, this last statement, question 3 should be either false or to be true. Let's start with the assumption of false. I'll start with the assumption of false and thereafter we'll go to the assumption of true. So we'll take false and thereafter true. if they say he, it is asked to see the last question, are you the owner of the supermarket or the water sports center, and C says yes, right? But C is not the owner of the supermarket. Definitely water sports center is ruled out, but not the owner of the supermarket. That's when we end up getting a false, and water sports center is in any case out of bounds, right? That means he is not owning either of these two places, right? That's false. The second statement says, are you the owner of the supermarket? We know not the owner of the supermarket, right? And or right, are you the owner of the supermarket or the farm group? That's what is being asked. The supermarket is out of context, and D says a yes, right? E says a yes. So we got to make the other two true. That's the bare minimum we have to work, because only one forest can work, which means if for this statement to be true, because the answer is yes, this must become a farm group and nothing else, right? Because this person says a yes, right? Supermarket is out, right? Supermarket, no, supermarket is still in. Why are we pushing out supermarket, right? We're pushing out supermarket because the last statement says, are you the owner of the supermarket? That we know, no, not the owner, right? Are you the owner of the supermarket? This person says false. Yeah, it could be a supermarket. Let's check it, that option as well, right? Let's look at the supermarket thingy first, right? The water sports center is out, but supermarket is still in. This could be a supermarket, right? If it is a false, right, he says, yes, I am the owner of the supermarket. The supermarket or the water sports center, which is already taken, yes. The supermarket, if he's the owner, he cannot say yes, and that's a false. So supermarket is ruled out, right? That makes life a little easy. That means we're talking of a palm grove, that being the next statement. So that must be a palm grove. In this case, I'm just assuming a case, right? And we're just taking a case. If it is false, true, true, or question 1 is true, question 1 is true, question 1 is false. We validated question 2, not yet the question 1. Are you the owner of the holiday resort? He says no, that is true. Palm grove is right. Well, what if it was a true and something else, right? So if that last statement is true, that means yes. Are you the owner of the supermarket or the water sports center? I'm talking of this case. So that becomes definitely water sports center is taken by D. That means this must become a supermarket. This must become a supermarket. Now, what does it mean? And this is question 2. Are you the owner of the supermarket? Are you the owner of the supermarket or the palm grove? Right? If you're looking at that and the question 1 would automatically, the no would become a true without doubt. Right? Why no would become a true? Because are you the owner of the holiday resort? He says no, and that is definitely a true statement. Right? But if you look at the statement 2, are you the owner of the supermarket? Yes. Right? Are you the owner of the supermarket? Or the palm grove, or the palm grove, right? In this condition, that becomes a true, right? Either owner of the supermarket or the palm grove under this condition, that can become true. That means you're seeing there are two possibilities, right? And out of that, one possibility should hold true, right? That's where the entire catch is, right? So it could be one of these two cases, and that's it. We left out, right? Okay, can this be false? Okay, can this be false? Of course, this statement 2 cannot be false in the condition 2. Now we'll move on, right? So there are two possibilities here. There are two possibilities here. We'll have to figure out which of the given possibilities is right. So this could be, farm grove, while this could be supermarket, depending on whether that is case 1 for C or case 2 for C. We'll go to B, right? But as of now, we'll take each of these cases and try to identify, assuming, right? Assuming that we have a supermarket case, right? Let's say we put the supermarket case here and the palm grove case here. Assuming there's a supermarket, that means supermarket, the case 2, right, of C, then the supermarket and water sports center is already gone, right? Supermarket and water sports center is already gone. That means the last statement of B, either owner of the supermarket or the water sports center, would automatically become, right, they say is yes, would become a false. That means the first two statements must be true. There's no questions asked here, right? That's equivalent to your case 2, right? Now we are mapping this way, okay? This is case 2 and that's case 2, and this will be your case 1, right? Which means if I come to the first statement, are you the owner of the holiday resort? For first question, are you the owner of the holiday resort? This chap says yes, and that is true. That means must become the owner of the what can I say? Must. Okay, I think I've reordered it some way, right? Let me just rearrange that. Let me just rearrange all of it, right? So what we understood is that should be a true, that should be a true, and that should be a false. And we're looking at case 2 and case 2 here, right? That means this must become a holiday resort because the first statement is true and B says yes, right? First statement is true and B automatically has told an yes, told a yes, right? Okay, but the second question for B was, are you the owner of the supermarket or the farm grove? And this guy says no, which is also true. Why? Awesome. That's making a lot of sense, right? Okay, let's take the other way around, right? If this is palm grove, what we're talking of being a palm grove, that means we're talking of C being the owner of the palm grove. The palm grove is out of bounds, right? Palm grove is out of bounds, which means, right? Is statement 2 of B, right? I mean, B cannot be the owner of the supermarket. Okay, B cannot be the owner of the palm grove. B cannot be the owner of the palm grove, right? Because palm grove is already taken because of C. I'm taking the case 1, right? We're trying to work with the case 1. The palm grove is out. So let's look. Okay, now are you the owner of the holiday resort? Now we are not sure of that. But question 2 was, are you the owner of the supermarket? It could be the owner of the supermarket, right? Could be the owner of the supermarket or the palm grove. No, palm grove is out. Supermarket, when he says no, I'm not the owner of the supermarket, nor am the owner of the palm grove. Now that's a little dicey. It could be a true, it could be a false, right? We still are not sure whether it's a true or a false, right? Okay, now are you the owner of the holiday resort? Now that could be true and that could be false, but we all understand there should be only one false here, right? Assuming, okay, he says this, the second statement to be no, and that is true. That means they're neither the owner of the supermarket nor the owner of the palm grove, and that's true. In case that is true, let's figure that out, right? In case that is true, so supermarket is gone, right? Palm Grove is gone. Water Sports Center is taken by D. We're again left with holiday resort only. In case that is true. In case that is true. Okay, now are you the owner of the holiday resort? So the first question, right? That was in any case, yes, that becomes a true. And the last statement, are you the owner of the supermarket or the water sports center? He says yes, that will become a false, right? That will become a false. Okay, what if we make the statement 2 as false, right? Let's figure that out as well. So it's taking some time just to explain, but trust me, in the exam this will be much quicker for any one of you. Assuming this were a false, right? This were a false. Are you the owner of the supermarket? And he says no. Are you the owner of the farm group? He says no, but he's owner of one of them, right? I'm still working on the fact that he's, we're taking the case 1 here, that this is case. He's, C is the owner of the farm group. If you take this condition, that he says false, he says no, that means definitely, this guy should be the owner of the supermarket. We're talking B. B should be the owner of the supermarket, right? Which means, what does it mean? The next statement, B says, are you the owner of the supermarket or the water sports center? He says yes. So that becomes a true because he's the owner of the supermarket. And the first statement becomes, are you the owner of the holiday resort? He says yes. So is he the owner of the holiday resort now? No supermarket, that becomes a false. So we cannot have two falses in the statement, right? So we can negate that. But that also gives us a conclusion, right? We can all come at some conclusions from this, right? That means the only possibility here, I mean, whatever the case, it does not matter. The answer for B is going to be true, true, false. That's it. That's our answer. Whether it is case 1, whether it's case 2, it shouldn't matter, right? If it is case 1 or case 2, it shouldn't matter. The ownership for B is definitely for the holiday resort. Are we good? Holiday resort. So we are sure. Now, between, right? We have C. There are two cases for C. That's where the problem started. Probably use another color ink. Just give me a second here, right? That's where the problem started, and that's what is going to work with us, right? That's what is going to work with us here, right? So let's see. Okay, let's see what we can figure out from here. which means we have fixed D is having a water sports center, B is having a holiday resort. Now it's between A and C to choose between Palm Grove and supermarket. So let's figure that out. Let's figure that out. Let's see how. Let's see how. Okay. So we'll begin now. Okay. Now let's go to A. A. Now we know A is not the owner of the holiday resort. But A says yes. That means this must be a lie. That means this must be a false statement for A. Right? Because A is not the owner of the holiday resort. Either A should be a palm grove or a supermarket, which automatically conveys the fact that the other two statements of A must be true. This has to hold ground. Right? This has to hold ground. Now, if A says, are you the owner of the supermarket or the palm grove? Right? Now, you notice here, both of them are there. Supermarket and palm grove. Both of them are pretty much there. Right? A says yes. Right? That means A is definitely the owner of one. But for the third question as well, A says, I the owner of the supermarket and the water sports center. Since water sports center is already taken by D, A cannot take this, right? A does not have a validity on water sports center. That means A must and will end up owning the supermarket, right? If A ends up owning the supermarket, he can answer it true and true here, right? Which also means that C will end up owning the other part, which is the palm grove, which means that this statement, right, which means that this true for C is negated, right? So we can be pretty certain that A. Now someone might ask, right, is there an easier way to do it, right? Yes, with answer options, like I said, if you could, right, with answer options, but normally speaking, this question should not take much time, right? It might take a little time to explain to you, and most of you will just getting a hang of things. But trust me, these are pretty simple ones. And if you look at questions, you'll understand why this was coming, right? Good amount of question where English-based logic is one of the types. Truth and lies always, based on the verbal part, right? Having a decent idea on verbal definitely helps, right? So that's good. I think we can answer the question. So A is the owner of the supermarket, right? What we could figure out, right? A is the owner of the supermarket, and oh, okay. Well. One second. I think the statement three somewhere we messed up. Give me a second on this. Give me a second on this. What's the statement three saying? Statement three says for A we're saying, I the owner of the supermarket and the water sports center. He says no. He says no, that should be true. No, that should be true. That means A should not be owning them. Oh, okay. Fine. I messed it up, I think. Right? That means A is definitely owning the supermarket, right? Not owning the supermarket, A will be owning the farm grove, and we can negate this case, right? It's just the reverse I said, right? Yeah, okay, fine. I don't know. I don't know. Probably the anxiety of the exam is catching on me because I want to make sure, right? So if you guys are comfortable with this topic, and in that, you guys get a little anxious because we know that over the last 1 year, you guys have prepared really hard, right? Many of you have put your heart and soul, right? You guys have put your heart and soul into this. You've gone through the drill. Some of you are working, right? Gone through the drill of trying to manage a job as well as try to prepare for the exam and all that. I'm sure things are going to be good, right? For you guys, just be confident of what you guys are doing, right? Right. That's very important for you guys from now on. Okay, let's look at the answers to the question, but a general preview, right? A's answers were false, true, true. B's answers were true, true, false. C's answers were true, true, true. C's answers were true, true, true. And D's answers were also true, true, true. A is owning the Palm Grove, B owns the holiday resort, C the supermarket, and D the water sports center. So let's look at the questions. A's answers for which question were true, and for which questions were false. So pretty simple from the previous thing. We know that for the question 1 were true for question 1, and false, true. Okay, give me a second. False for question 1, right? Where Okay, that's question 2 and 3 were true and question 1 was false. These answers for which questions were true and which questions were false. That is 1 and 2 were true and 3 was false. That is true and that's false. Right? What's the difference in the number of true answers by C and D? That's 0 because for both of them it was true, true, true and true, true, true. That means 3 true and 3 true. That's pretty simple. Which inhabitant surely gave no wrong answer? Both C and D, right? And these answers for which question or questions was or were true and for which questions was or were false. These answers for which question was or were for all questions was true, no questions was false. That's simple, and D was the crux of the entire question. We have to start with this. Okay, let me just quickly go through this. So what we did is this was very easy to figure out. This part here we had two cases, and here we built actually three cases, but we could negate the three cases, and we also figured out that B owns a holiday resort. Right? That means in all three cases we ended up with two cases, but eventually the two cases both were true, true, false for B, and we ended up finding that B has to own the holiday resort in both the cases. The third case was negated. While lastly we checked between A and C, which could choose anywhere between Palm Grove and supermarket, but the fact that supermarket is common in both the cases gave away the hint what we're going to work with, and we were good to go with this question, right? So all cool with this question, right? So I think that's now very nice. Okay.
You can learn any subject, anywhere, any place, and on the go. Come, let us go the other way in learning. Download our revolutionary app for free AMC.